Hi, it's Christy Lister with Beyond the First Response, and I'm here with my co host, Robin Michael, and our special guest, Chris Moore. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you, ladies?
We are
Good.
doing good. We saw your dog. He
Yeah.
may or may not make another appearance.
Yeah.
Hey, right down at my feet right now.
Are we not going to talk about what the dog was doing?
Am I gonna have to like fog out the picture, figure out how to block it out?
You're going to have to block it out of your mind. Maybe some EMDR or something can help with that.
Maybe. I
My
don't know,
dog
after what we
actually
saw.
my dog actually tries to hump the cat on a regular basis. So I don't know which is worse.
Well, is it on TV though?
It can be if you want it to be.
That's a whole
Pay-per-view.
other, yeah. Well, that's not our icebreaker though. So as we always ask our guests something different each time. So we know that you are in Virginia.
Yes, ma'am.
So we have an icebreaker for you. Robin, take it away.
Yeah. All right. So roadside attractions in the lovely state of Virginia. Giant roller skate, the natural bridge, or foam henge.
Which one would you pick?
Natural Bridge is in Virginia.
They're all in Virginia.
They're all in Virginia. He's
Really?
like, no.
Yeah.
Well, I know about the Natural Bridge. I don't know about the others.
Foam
break,
henge.
break the ice with me.
All right. Natural bridge it is.
And it's beautiful.
It is.
Yeah.
It's in the Shenandoah Valley and the Blue Ridge Mountains.
How far is that from you?
Probably about, I could be there in about 3 hours.
Oh, that's not too bad.
I live right on the beach, or not right on the beach, but by the beach.
Nice.
So we have that connection because I have my best friend lives in Chesapeake, Virginia, and I go out. I usually go out there. It's like every other year. I haven't been because the last time I went, I had was 3 weeks later. Ken died, so I just haven't been back. But I need to.
You have a place with us always, you and Mark.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So with that, why don't we go ahead? Because Virginia is beautiful. And the giant King Neptune
Yeah.
on the beach,
Neptune statue.
on the strip in Virginia Beach. It's beautiful. I have a picture that was years. It was after a hurricane that I went out there the first time or right before. I can't remember. And I have a picture of myself with that. Like it's just breathtaking.
Yeah, it's probably the most photographed place in probably the entire state, but definitely in the region here.
I believe it. I believe it. So with that being said, I'm excited to have you because we're just getting some firefighters on to come on and talk. We're getting people from all over the country. And Virginia is such a beautiful place. And we have a lot of boots on the ground there. So, which is wonderful. And I met you a couple weeks ago. You came out here and did an event. So it was wonderful meeting you. I felt like we've known each other right away.
Likewise.
I love when that happens because there's that connection. So Robin, do you have any questions to start off?
Yeah. So kind of the same. Your name was given to us as a resource to help out with Red Help. Because we needed volunteers. We still need volunteers, but you kind of hit the ground running. You had all of these conferences that you were already speaking at. And same, I felt with you when we had been talking that we had known each other forever. So I guess, not to just dive right into things, but how long have you been in the fire service and kind of what brought you to the point of doing the speaking on behalf of mental wellness for firefighters and first responders?
So I've been in the fire service for since 1993, so 29 years now, almost 30. And I've actually, my entire career, I started out in 93 in the city of Virginia Beach, Virginia, where I live now. And I volunteered for 7 years until 2000. And then the neighboring city of Chesapeake, Virginia came offering me a job as a career firefighter in 2000. And I gladly accepted that. And that's where I currently work today. I'm a captain there with Chesapeake, Virginia Fire Department. Throughout my entire career in public safety, I would never really talk about much of anything related to the job. And it was really, really tough thinking, having that terrible mindset that we have an S on our chest. And I think that I'm protecting my wife and my son and my family and everything by not talking about bad calls and holding my emotions in and everything like that, isolating myself. And everything really came to a head in 2017. I like to, when I do my talks, I compare our heads to a bucket. Mm-hmm. And if we have all of these traumas and hardships and everything that we're exposed to keeps going into that bucket, if you don't have a healthy means of a coping mechanism or something to relieve that trauma going into that bucket, eventually it's going to overflow. And that's what happened to me in January of 2017. My proverbial bucket overflowed, and I went into a very dark place. It was actually a year after that was when I was diagnosed with PTS, mm-hmm. and started getting the help that I needed and doing a lot better. So I did a lot of, go ahead.
Can I ask a question? Was your department supportive of you getting that help, or was it something that you had to really sit down and explain to them?
My department is very proactive instead of reactive when it comes to almost everything across the board, including mental health. Uh-huh. We all know that that's kind of a new genre now, or a new aspect in public safety that's coming around is the mental health part. For years, it had always in the fire service been cancer, and it still is cancer, but we're starting to do a lot more talking and diving into the mental health aspect of it, which I think is a great thing. In 2017, when I had this incident, it was actually January 9th of 2017. I went into a very dark place immediately after that call. And it was 3 months later in April of that year, the fire chief actually saw me at an event, noticed that something wasn't right. And we're a department of just under 500 members. And he's the type of chief that he knows all 500 members' names.
That's amazing.
If he's met huge. If he's met your family, he remembers your family, and he will ask you about your wife, your kids, or whatever. And I like to use the term that he has his fingers on the pulse of his members. Mm-hmm. And he truly does. He sensed that day in April that something wasn't right with me. And the next day when I got off duty, I received a phone call from his secretary asking me to go to lunch with the fire chief. He wanted to take me to lunch and just discuss some things in my mental health and everything like that. And naturally, what did I do? I said no. I was just at home. I had nothing going on, but I just made up some BS excuse and was having my pity party and sitting home drinking. And that was my drug of choice, was alcohol. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I was a lieutenant. I was going through the process to make captain. And when I got off the phone with her, I realized I just committed career suicide. The fire chief asks you to do something, you do it. You do whatever you have to do to make things happen. So my wife, she knew that something was going on, but I thought that I was wearing a very good mask and concealing and hiding everything. But you ladies, you guys can pick up on all of our shenanigans. And
we know something, but we just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Kind of the same.
Yeah, she knew something was going on. She didn't know how dark and deep everything really went. And I knew to pick up the phone, and I called her and I told her I just committed the career suicide. And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And told her how I was invited to lunch with the fire chief. And she's like, "You need to go and you need to open up with him and talk to him about it."
Yeah.
So I got off the phone with her, called back the fire chief secretary, and set up this luncheon later in the day. And we went there, and it wasn't fire chief to lieutenant. It was man to man, mm-hmm. person to person, human to human.
Yeah.
And it was a great conversation. He, like I said, he's really proactive in mental health, and he just gave me a lot of great wisdom. Like I said, if he's met your family before, he knows them and he remembers about them. And he really knows who my family is. When he was surprised when he found out that after all these years in public safety, I would never once talk to my wife about calls or something that bothered me. Mm-hmm. And you would think, being gone for 24 hours at a time, that when I'm coming home, I would have a lot of stuff to talk about with my wife. This, oh, we did this or we did that. And it just wasn't like that.
Was it like that in the beginning?
Never.
Never. Okay.
Even when I started, before I met my wife, when I started out volunteering and everything, I wouldn't talk to my friends or my mom and my father and stuff like that. I wouldn't. And one of the things
hard to tell the story again.
Yeah, it really bothers me. And not everybody's like this, but one of my fears, because it's been asked of me before, is the worst question I think you can ask a first responder is, what is the worst thing you've ever seen? And why on God's green earth would I want to relive and talk about with you something that is the worst thing that I've ever seen?
Yeah.
And there's so many horrific things that we see. One of the things that I talk about is the average person is probably going to see maybe 3 traumatic events in their lifetime. And we can see that easily in one 24-hour shift. And you figure that into a 20, 30, some guys, even 40-year careers. That's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of stuff going into that bucket that I was talking about just a little while ago. And like I said, if we don't come up with some way, because I never had a healthy way of relieving that. And like I said, I exploded, and I was just ready to get out of the best job in the world, to me, the U.S. Fire Service. I wanted to just give up on it, but the fire chief didn't give up on me. And he told me to utilize my family, utilize my faith. And I thought that fixed me after that meeting. But I went home, had a heart-to-heart with my wife that evening, and told her that I was going to start leaning more on my wife and our son. Mm-hmm. And it helped for a good while. And like I said, I thought I was fixed by just doing that. Mm-hmm. But come to find out, that wasn't the case. And then in 2018, I had another a big triggering event, another series of bad calls. And at that point, I finally reached out with the, I like to say, nagging, but strong encouragement of my wife. I finally reached out to a therapist. And when I made that phone call, it seemed like eternity before I could get the words, when he answered the phone, before I could get any words out of my mouth. But in reality, it was probably only about 20 seconds. And I finally got the 2 hardest words ever out of my mouth. And no, it's not Worcestershire. It was help me. So I got the words help me out. And I'm just wondering what the hell had to be going through that guy's mind when it's just silence for 20 seconds and you just hear a male's voice saying, help me. We eventually struck up a conversation on the phone, let him know who I was, what I was dealing with and going through, and how very dark of a place I was in. And he got me into his office, set up an appointment within the next few days. And then I had to do the next hardest thing, and that was showing up to the appointment. This was all being done on my own. It wasn't a recommendation or referral from the fire service or anything like that. However, I'm sure if I went to the fire chief or our peer support team and asked for help, I know that they would have found help for me. Yeah. So I was very reluctant to go to therapy. And reason being, I just had the thought in my head that I'm going to go there. It's going to be an office with a fireplace burning. I'm laying down on a couch and this guy's sitting in his chair smoking a pipe, and I'm talking about all my childhood traumas and
with a bourbon.
What shows have you been watching?
I'm old, so it's probably like something from Father Knows Best or something like that.
Hey, don't say you're old. I know how old you are. We are the same age.
I didn't say you're old. I said I'm old. I didn't know I was still 21.
I thought I was.
Yeah. But it was nothing like that at all.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I didn't blow that appointment off and I showed up. It was two guys carrying on a conversation in a regular chairs in a room. I wasn't laying down on a couch or anything. And he really, truly was vested in me and my well-being, and gave me a plan to succeed. We started meeting weekly. And at this point, it was just with him, it was just therapy. I was doing journaling and a lot of just speaking with him and my family. This went on for about a year until 2019. And he ended up having a tragedy within his practice, and his practice had to shut down. Oh. So I'm like, shit, I was doing good with everything, seeing him weekly and doing a lot of journaling, actually feeling really good and hopeful and positive about stuff. And then I just had the world just changed at the drop of a dime. So in this area here, we have the one of the largest military installations in the world, with the between the Navy and Army and Air Force, Marines, everybody just assigned right here in the Hampton Roads part of Virginia. And you would think that with all our veterans coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan and everywhere else, that we would have a lot of therapists here that work with PTS and possibly work with first responders as well as the veterans. And it's just not the case. Wow. It was like pulling teeth trying to find a therapist that works with first responders and or knows about PTS. And then if you do get lucky enough to find one, they're not taking insurance, or they're not taking new patients.
Wow.
So it was very, let's say I used to have a head full of hair until that point. I pulled all my hair out just trying to find a therapist. I was at my wit's end and ready to just throw it all in and be done with stuff.
Why do you think that is, though? Why do you think with all of the resources that's in that area that there weren't at that time? I mean, it wasn't that long ago, any culturally competent therapists. Is it lack of education on the part of the government or whoever it was that needed to hire these people?
I don't know per se necessarily what it is.
Or do you think that there's not that many of them in general and that we need to work on?
Yeah, I think in general, there's just not that many going into that field right now.
Yeah.
And then when they go into that field, they're just like a licensed clinical social worker. They just deal on things in a broad scope and don't necessarily focus on and concentrate on the PTS. I think we need a lot more therapists that concentrate on the PTS. I'm working within my department now, trying to get together a proposal where we can actually get a therapist that knows about PTS, but embed them within the fire department. Yeah. And have them do ride-alongs and let the guys and girls get to know who this therapist is, and they know who we are. And so people aren't afraid to talk to them.
Well, and I think it says a lot that your chief is so embedded in his department and willing to wear, that on his sleeves, that he knows that people are struggling and wanting to help, because I think that makes that transition into that a lot easier.
Oh, absolutely.
As long as you can get it, policy written for that transition will be so open and welcome that I just picture how amazing that would be for every department.
Yeah. And I asked that question because actually Eric's department that I'm working with, their peer support team right now, they're trying to find a therapist to be embedded in their department as well. And they're having a hard time because there's just not that many of them. And the ones that they do know of are already with somebody. They're contracted with another department. So that's like the next step. The department's acknowledging that we need this, but then if there's no one to contract with, what do you do? So,
yeah, it would be pretty nice. And you hear of a lot of first responders who go through the PTS And with their recovery and resiliency and everything, they put themselves through school to become a therapist.
Yeah.
And it would be nice if they actually came up with some kind of a grant to assist first responders who want to do that. And then we can actually just think about it. If I went to school,
yeah,
that's a terrible thought.
I know that in of itself.
Well, you are 21, so you've got plenty of time.
Yeah. But if I chose to do that and went to school, became a therapist, and working with first responders, once I retire, then, I mean, the guys within my department already know me. So if I got embedded within my department, they'd be more open and willing to talk to me. And they actually, since they know my journey now, and I speak about that, I have guys and girls within my department coming up to me and speaking to me about my journey and saying, I've had issues with this or with that. And it's just very eye-opening how many people out there, like I said, are wearing that mask and everything, where you think everything's all right, but they're really not.
It is interesting. You don't really find out until you start being open about that to others. Then you see that light in their head go on, like, oh, it's not just me.
Yeah.
Wow. How did I not know it's not just me?
Yeah. So it was, we're in 2019 now when I started looking for the therapist, and I finally found a new therapist. I was at my wit's end, and I found a therapist who works with PTS. And she told me she wasn't taking new patients, but she did take my insurance. But when I told her more about who I was and what I was going through, she ended up agreeing to take me on as a patient. She's like, I'll squeeze you in and I will work with you. And my first appointment with her, I told her, and I didn't mean to be a dick or anything like that. Sorry. You can edit that out.
No, that's good.
But, the real body part.
Yeah. But I didn't mean to be a jerk or anything. And I told her that therapists are like a pair of shoes. They're not one size fits all.
Correct.
And if sitting here having our initial consultation, if I feel like she can't help me, then I'm not coming back. And this lady looked at me just as stern as could be. And she told me the exact same thing. She's like, if I don't think I can help you, I'm going to get you the help that you need, and we will find you what you need. I'm not going to just jerk you around just to be getting paid.
Yeah. So
we started seeing each other weekly. We hit it off very well. She actually does EMDR, the eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And that was the first time I had ever been exposed to that. For me, it worked wonders. Not just with one session, it was numerous sessions, but it did a lot for my traumas and everything that I'd been exposed to over the years, and helped out tremendously. And later in 2019, I know I'm just giving you my whole story. So if you're like,
it's okay. It's
no, this is how we lay it out, because it takes time and it adds up. So you're just showing how the layers add up.
Yeah. So later in 2019, at the end of that year, I'm still seeing my therapist on a weekly basis. Her name's Lee Ellen. So I'm still seeing Lee Ellen. She actually has me going to a psychiatry group for medications. So I'm being medicated now. And that's an ongoing process where they have to tweak your medications and everything like that to find the right therapeutic dosages and everything. So we're getting all that squared away. And then we find out about a service dog organization within the state of Virginia here. They're called Service Dogs of Virginia in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is about 2.5 hours away. And they normally place service dogs with people with diabetes or balance problems and stuff like that. Well, they had just recently gotten into the game of providing service animals to veterans with PTS. And they were looking at doing it for first responders. So we, as a group, my healthcare team and I and my family, we had a conversation. Is this a route that we would like to go to? They really thought it would be something good for me. And it had a lot of pros, but it had some cons also. So I had to do a lot of soul searching and wanting to know if I really wanted to go that far. A whole lot of people within my organization didn't know what was going on with me. I wasn't really open at that point about my journey just yet. And even my crew and everything like that, nobody really knew a whole lot of where I was mentally. I was still on the job and doing everything. It's very uncharted water, a service dog in the firehouse or in the fire service. So I reached out. I found a friend of a friend, actually turned out to be in our same state up in Northern Virginia, who is a firefighter. And he actually has a service dog that goes to the firehouse with him and everything. Mm-hmm. So he's one of only probably about a handful across the country that I know of. And I reached out to him and spoke with him. Mm-hmm. And we had a very good conversation. And one of my fears was that people are going to talk trash about me.
Yeah.
Like my mental health is going to be out and open. There's no hiding it when you have a dog. That dog is an extension of you.
Right.
It goes with you everywhere. It would come with me to the firehouse and everything. So he helped with my concerns of that. And he's like, you know what? He goes, two things. If people are talking trash about you, about your mental health and everything like that, those are peers that you don't want to socialize with anyhow. You don't want to associate with them. So, but even better than that, number two, at least you have them talking about mental health.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, he's like, they might be talking trash about it and everything, but it's starting the conversation about mental health.
Yeah. And don't you find that the people that are talking trash about it, I had this conversation with one of the peer support members at Eric's department the other day, that those are probably the ones that actually do have a problem. It's projection.
Absolutely.
It's projection. Yeah.
I had somebody tell me what you see in other people, like, oh, that drives me crazy, what they do. It's actually that reflection of what's going on inside you.
Yeah. Yeah. And they probably don't realize it, I guess.
Oh, absolutely not.
So, they're God's gift to the fire service or police department or whatever.
Yeah. They're the exception to every rule.
Yeah. So with that, those words of wisdom that he gave me and everything in that thought process, it immediately changed my mindset, and I had nothing but pros, no cons whatsoever anymore, and decided to go along through the process. And it's a process to get a service dog, to get approved through the organization and everything like that. It was a booklet of paperwork that my healthcare team and myself and family members and friends had to fill out, and that had to get submitted. They review that, and if they think you're might be a candidate, they invite you up for a panel interview with their board of directors and their physician. And that was pretty mind-boggling when I got invited up there for that. Very stressful with my PTS. I have secondary anxiety and depression and everything as well. So I was very anxious when I went up there and met with them. But they made me feel very at home and comfortable. And the interview process, it was me kind of doing what I'm doing right now, just sharing my story. And I'm talking, they actually had me talk through specific calls and everything as well, which was very tough. But like I said, they made me feel comfortable. When we were done, they introduced me to several of the dogs. And that's where I met Lewis for the first time, not knowing then that he was going to end up being my service dog. Left that still not knowing what was going on, but I had a better idea that this was advancing pretty good. So this is when I go to my fire chief, and I called him up and asked him if we could meet, my wife and I meet him for a meeting just to go over some stuff with him, just one-on-one off duty or two-on-one. And he's like, absolutely. He sensed the importance of what we had to talk about. He didn't know what it was, but he just knew it was something important. He canceled his calendar, and he actually came and over to our house, suggested he would come here to another city and met with us. And we had a nice conversation, getting caught up on everything. Like I said, he's aware of my mental health, what was going on. And then I just went right into it and told him about the possibility of getting a service dog, and that it would be an extension of me, and it would come into the firehouse if granted. and all. And he thought that was an amazing idea, and he supported it. But at this time, since it was still up in the air, going through the process, I asked him not to take it across the street to human resources. Just keep it between us for right now, and let's see where it goes. So it was about a couple months after that. We're in 2020 now. Corona's going on, and and I get the official word. Actually, they come out and they do a home inspection also. So they came out to my house, made sure that my home was fit for a dog and wasn't a dump and all that, and that he would be cared for. And they actually brought Lewis out there to my house for that. So I got to see Lewis again and spend some more time with him. And everything went very well, but I still didn't know at that point that I was getting a dog. It was about 2 weeks after that, they contacted me and told me, congratulations, you're getting a service dog. And I cried. I was just so thankful and happy and everything like that. I immediately called the fire chief up. I was like, hey, go across the street to human resources, let them know this is happening.
Yeah.
The city had a process in place. They had an administrative regulation for service animals within the city. But like I said, the fire service and the firehouse was uncharted waters. They never had somebody that lives at a location for 24 hours at a time with a dog. So they gave me, once again, I'm exposed to another booklet of paperwork that I have to have filled out through my healthcare team and myself. And not that I needed one, but I found a attorney that deals with ADA. And I just asked her if she could look over my paperwork when I fill it out and help me with it, just to make sure my I's were dotted. Yeah. So she helped me with that, made sure the I's were dotted and T's were crossed. We submitted the paperwork, and we just waited and waited and waited. The city was just taking their time on it. And I had to go to Charlottesville, Virginia. It's called a transfer camp, which lasts for 2 weeks. And that's where the dog that's already trained is turned over to you, and you train with the dog for those 2 weeks. And we did that. And after the first week, I still hadn't heard from the city. And we're into the second week with probably 3 days left. So we're like at the start of Wednesday, and nothing from the city yet. And I was like, I'm showing up in 7 more days with this dog. Either they're going to let me into the firehouse with it, or they're going to send me home. And then the lawyer will be there to help me with my rights and everything through the ADA. And it was that very last day that the city reached out to me and told me my accommodations were granted. And which all I was asking for was just the city to accommodate me with bringing Lewis to the fire station. And then when we have calls, he obviously wouldn't ride on the fire apparatus or anything like that. I would crate him. I didn't ask for anything extraordinary or anything crazy like that. I just wanted the right to have him there because he works with me on my anxiety. And he also does a lot with me for my night terrors and helps me out related to the PTS. So that was granted, finished up the class, and came back to the fire station the following week. And that was kind of an anxious moment coming there. I'd already talked to my guys prior to leaving and letting them know where I was mentally, and that I was leaving for a couple of weeks to go train with a service dog, and that more than likely I'd be bringing a dog with me to the station 24/7. And they all supported me. I showed up that first day, and they were happy to meet him. And he does just as much good for those guys.
I was going to say that. Isn't he kind of as being an extension of you? Now he's an extension of the firehouse.
Yeah.
So.
And even the other 2 shifts when they are coming, we're going off duty and they're coming on, they want to see Lewis and just pet him to start their day and everything. And it's just amazing the calmness that he brings to the firehouse and to the crew after we have a bad call.
With that, not to interrupt, because I have so many questions to ask about Lewis, but with that, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and we will be right back after this. We're so excited to be able to start our day with Badge Brew Coffee. Hey, Robin, did you know they take a green coffee bean and roast them to a rich and delicious brew?
I did. And Christy, did you know that Badge Brew is first responder family owned? So whether you're on day shift, night shift, or the shift of raising your family, Badge Brew will always have your coffee ready and waiting.
Let me ask you, what's your badge of honor? Find out by going to badgebrewcoffee.com. All right, welcome back. And we are here with Chris Moore. He's a captain at the Chesapeake, Virginia Fire Department, and talking candidly and openly about Lewis, his service dog, amongst other things. But we left off with Lewis, and Lewis, we got to see him on video a little bit ago. So he's very useful. So we left off, the guys at the department like to pet him, he brings calm into the department. So he's been there now since 2020, right?
Yeah, since August of 2020 is when he actually got paired with me and we started going to the firehouse and everything. So a year and a half now.
That's good. And how do you think with that? I mean, obviously each call brings a different set of struggles and reactions. Is he able to pick up on, obviously yours, you trained with him, but does he pick up on others as well?
I think he does. It's a different way. Like when he picks up on mine, he'll come up to me with his snout and he'll like nudge into me and letting me know that, hey, I'm here for you. You're here in the here and now, in the present. You're not still on that traumatic call that you just had, or traumatic call that you ran in the past that you're having a flashback on. But he goes up to the guys. Like I can tell when we come back from something, and after he's done with me, he'll go up to somebody else. He doesn't nudge them with his nose, but he'll come up and check them out and everything. And I don't know if he's just doing it for belly rubs or whatnot, but
yeah. The nudging, did you guys train on that? Like that's his sign. That's your sign when he does that you can come back to the present.
Yeah, that's one of the things he does. And then if I'm in a standing position, a lot of times he'll come in between my legs and just put his pressure up against my inner thighs, just letting me know that, hey, I'm here. You're safe.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I know at the event that we were at a couple weeks ago, they had some service dogs there, and I didn't get the nudging, but I got them backing up for me to rub their butt. So I don't know what that meant, but maybe I needed.
It meant rub my butt.
Yeah. I don't know if that was rub my butt or they needed to be in front of me. I'm not sure which one, but it was kind of cool to see because I watched them. You know, their booth was next to my Blue Help, Red Help booth, and I would just kind of watch them interact or watch people and just walk up to people. And it was cool to see.
Yeah. You can just see the, at events like that. And even at the firehouse, when I walk in with Lewis, and he's been to, he wasn't there at that event, but at other conferences, he's been there. You can just see the tension drop in the room when a comfort dog or a service dog comes into that room and everything like that. It's amazing the response that we get.
Now, out of curiosity, because when we go and we talk about what has occurred in our life, it's an adrenaline dump later on, right? We talk about that because it's that so much that you put out there of yourself, which is incredibly strong to do, but it also takes a toll with your energy. Does that happen with him when he's going into, you guys come back from a call, he's helped you, and then he starts feeling everything around and walking up to people? Do you find that he then has to, like that adrenaline drop, he's got to sleep, he just has to kind of chill out?
No, I haven't really seen that in him a whole lot. He's just like a first responder. He's hyper vigilant. He's always on point, always on the ready. And people always comment how his eyes are always on me and everything. And it's the same way after he goes to me and goes to one of my firefighters and does the same. He's still watching me and paying attention. Mm-hmm. And even at nighttime, when we do have some opportunities to get into the bunk room and get some sleep, he's right there for me, and he picks up on if I start having, like I said, a night terror or something like that. He's just always on alert. So, which I hope that's not bad for him, like it can be for us.
I think animals, that's their nature. So I don't think I would think it's not. Although then we see like my dog's afraid of loud noises. And it happened all of a sudden after we had a bad storm. So yeah. I don't know. That's an interesting point. Yeah. But they're trained to be there for you. Like you're trained to go out and respond to these tragic events. So his mindset is often the same. He's a caregiver like you are.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a I guess, sense of reciprocation too. I'm sure that his anxiety maybe gets up a little bit, and then you petting him calms him down, and vice versa. I'm sure there's some of that too. I mean, it's science. It's proven that petting animals lowers your blood pressure. They have cats going into hospice homes, hospice care to sit with, people that are dying. It's proven.
It's funny that you say that. Yeah. And that does, because when my boyfriend Matt's grandma passed away, we were there, and one of her cats refused to leave her. Even, and once she passed, he still did not want to leave. And we finally had to pick him up and say, it's okay.
Yeah.
And, carry him off. But that's true. Cats, I always said, do cats make good therapy animals? Because I don't know.
He's doing a good job right now. This guy.
See? Now I have snakes. Amongst my dogs, I have snakes, but my daughter will pull the snake out and hold him and, sit there with him as if it's her therapy pet. She says it's like therapy for me. It is. There's nothing like it's like soothing when they are kind of slithering around on your arm.
That open invitation.
Yeah. Did that get reneged?
Yeah. The snakes can't come.
Yeah. No, I won't.
Yeah. Can you imagine? I'm going to bring my therapy snake into the firehouse.
And it has a little jacket on. I have a mission now. No. But going with even at home, because we know it affects your family, right? Especially if you have never been open and you've always kind of held stuff in until you got to this point in 2017. How has that been? I'm sure it's eggshells, or it was eggshells, because your family doesn't realize what's going on, and often they internalize it as their own. Since you've been starting the therapy, and we know throughout therapy, there's ups and downs. We know, that's life in general, but there will always be bumps in the road. How have you guys come up with to overcome any of those bumps? And have they been more open and sharing when they're struggling now, since you are open?
Yeah. One of the words that you just used, eggshells, that was the word that my wife always used to describe it. And they didn't know which husband they were going to get, which dad they were going to get. And it was really, really tough on them. Once I started getting the therapy and talking more, and if I have a bad day now, I'm open about it. And I'll tell my wife if I didn't see her before she left for work, when I got home, I'll tell her, I'll send her a text or whatever. Just, hey, just letting you know I'm having a rough day today. Just bear with me, and we'll get through it. And she appreciates that. So she knows what she's getting into when she comes home. But
because you take it on like it's your fault. Like there's something that you've done to cause for me as a husband to act the way that he's acting, and to have reactions to whatever I'm saying, that it's my fault. So that's great that you do that and keep that communication open. So it's calming. If you know that it's not you that's causing the problem, then you're like, okay, now she can be there for you and support you.
Yeah. And that's another thing. Like if I'm at the firehouse and we run a tough call, I'll definitely pick up the phone now and just tell her, hey, just had a really bad call. Can't get into it right now, but this happened or whatever. I just want to let you know if I come home tomorrow and I'm quiet, that's why. Eventually I will talk to you about it.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing is still talking about it, just letting her know I don't feel like talking about things right now. Let me just kind of get everything absorbed and get my thoughts and everything like that. And then I'll discuss it with you, and we'll get through things together. Let's just process it. And it works out a lot. One of the things that they do, they talk to me more about their problems. Mm-hmm. However, your loved ones of a first responder, they're going to suffer just like we can with compassion fatigue. Yes. And even their own form of PTS. And especially when you start downloading all of the stuff that you've seen on your loved one. My wife actually ended up thinking, she's like, she goes, it might be good if I go talk to a therapist also. Yeah. And that's something that she started doing, and she got benefits from that. And she had her own therapist, but I would include her with my therapy. I took her to my therapy sessions, and I took my son with me to therapy sessions. Good. And it's just, when you're open. And that's what I like to talk about when I do my presentations. I let everybody know I'm an open book. There's pretty much nothing off limits. And that goes for my everyday life also, with my family and my friends. I'm not concerned as much now about that question I talked about earlier. If somebody asks me, it still pisses me off inside. And, but I'll politely just tell them I'd rather not talk about that or whatever. But, and they don't really realize it. So you just try and educate people, and it helps out a lot. But my family's been really educated on this. They've been by my side the whole time. And I know that's been a difficult journey. It had to be a horrible journey to remain by such an asshole for so long, because I was, and I realize it, and I admit it, and I'm growing from that. And like I said, my wife and my son, they've always been there. My mother and even my friends have always been there to support me. And that's a lot.
Did you realize that beforehand? I'm sorry. Did you realize that beforehand, before you started opening up, that they were there for you?
I think, and it, if you have a good family nucleus and everything like that, but you don't want to utilize it. And I knew that deep down inside, if I needed any of them, that I could count on them. But I didn't want to know that, I guess. Yeah. If that makes any sense. I just didn't want to have to utilize that. I thought I was protecting them. Yeah. And now I realized I was doing myself the most harm by not utilizing that.
Yeah. And I think that all of it, like you said, you were being an asshole, but at the same time, they stuck by your side. Your wife stuck by your side. And that's a testament to the fact that you're not, she married you in spite of all that. So there is, and that's how I feel about Eric too. There's some horrible stories, horrible things that happened in our marriage, but I would like to assume that I wouldn't choose to marry somebody that was going to, be that way towards me. There was a piece inside of you that, you're a good person, you're a giving person, and that's why you're doing this job. Yeah. So let's get you back to that place.
And it's still, you change. October will be 19 years that we've been married. And I'm sure when we started out, and we got married in 2003, but been together before that. Mm-hmm. I'm sure when we started out, I wasn't as big of an asshole or whatever, but it was just as those traumas kept going into my bucket and everything like that. And like I said, in 2017, I was probably the king of assholes when all this really hit me, and I went to that dark place. And I don't know. I give you ladies, and I guess spouses of first responders, kudos, because it can't be easy. You're the head of the household for 24 hours at a time for at least 10 days a month. And I know it got to a point where I was just being such a jerk that my wife would actually pray that I would get picked up for overtime, or that I would get a conference where I have to go out of town for, or something like that.
Yep.
And that's pretty hurtful when you find out stuff like that. And I know she wasn't talking about that to be hurtful to me, but it really opened my eyes up quite a bit. It's like, man, I go, was I that bad? And yes, I was.
Yeah.
But it wasn't me.
Well, that's it. It wasn't you. It was the struggle in which you were having internally.
Yeah.
And I know we don't have a ton of time left, but your son, now I see my kids struggled. They each struggled in different ways. One of my kids have acted out a lot, that negative attention and the anxiety and the panic that comes with it. Did you find that? Because I taught my kids, I always say I made the mistake of teaching them you're on a need to know basis, which in fact, that taught them not to process, right?
Yeah.
Do you see things in your son that are being worked out now that you guys are working on being open and through everything?
I guess yes and no. He'll be 17 in May, and he's always been a great young man. And I haven't necessarily had to teach him a whole lot throughout this, but since I've gotten help, we do talk. We're a lot more open and everything. He's never really acted out or done anything, but we've always been an open family. Even when I was going through problems, I didn't open up about my problems, but we've been an open, loving and caring family. And I think that's what really got us through and gotten him through a lot. But since getting therapy, we are a hell of a lot closer. And if that was even possible, but it really is. We do a lot more. He truly is my best friend. And I feel like he's my best friend as well. Or I'm his best friend as well. And he's never once asked me, I know we're running short on time, but he doesn't know what he wants to do for his future. He wants to be a professional surfer. But he just recently started asking me a lot of questions about the fire service, and I'm answering them truthfully.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to tell him not to. I was like, I look into this, and I think he would be going into this a lot better than I went into it 29 years ago.
Yeah.
He sees what it can do, but he knows that if you get the help and what to look for and everything like that. And he finally did approach me not too long ago after asking all these questions. I figured he was kind of thinking about going into the fire service. And he told me, he's like, Dad, in case you can't tell, he goes, I'm thinking about doing it. He goes, I'm strongly considering it and everything. And I mean, I always tell him, like most of us always do our kids, I'll support you in whatever you do, whatever you choose. And he's just got a lot of questions, and we've actually talked about the mental health aspect of it, and he's okay with it.
Good. Well, and it's that generation that is going to make the huge cultural shift in the departments. It really is. I mean, go ahead.
No, I agree with you. It is. I didn't mean to cut you off like that.
No, it's okay.
But it starts. It's weird how a lot of times people say it starts at the top or it starts at the bottom.
Yeah.
But I like to say it starts at both, and it needs to come down.
They come together. Yep.
Yeah. If you get the crusty old salty firefighters or police officers, first responders.
Yeah. If
you just get one of those guys to open up and everything, and I'm finding now I'm that crusty old salty firefighter that I talk about. I've turned into that.
Yeah.
But I've gotten the help with it and everything. And people see that, and that I'm seasoned and everything like that. And I know what I'm talking about. And they're like, shit, if he can do it, I can do it too.
You actually finished my thought. So that's perfect. That's why I wanted you to go, because we're on the same page. It is both. It's the younger generation coming in that's going to push the older generation going out to make the change on their end, and for formulate my thoughts correctly, for the ones coming in to be the change that they want to see. So yeah, I love that coming together in the middle.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's one thing too, that every time I speak at a conference or symposium, I give every attendee that is there my business card. Mm-hmm. And my business card has on it my personal email address. Actually, it has my work email address, but it has my personal cell phone number on it. Mm-hmm. And usually I handwrite on the back of every business card, I will listen. Mm-hmm. And I give that to everybody. And usually when I'm done, people come up to me afterwards, thank me for sharing my story, and tell me that they can really relate to it and that it's really helped them. I'll get probably about a dozen people that do that afterwards. However, later that evening, when I check my email or I start getting text messages or even phone calls, I get anywhere from 7 to 24 people from each conference that reach out to me. It's like, hey, I didn't want to talk to you in person. You had so many people around you, and I keep in touch with all of these people. When Christy and I were just in Chicago and I spoke at the conference there, it was 2 days that I spoke, and I've literally had 24 people reach out to me since that conference and just telling me what a difference I make. And anybody that reaches out to me, I ask them if it's okay that I keep in touch with them. Mm-hmm. And usually everybody's cool with that. But I'll do buddy checks every week or two and just say, hey, thinking about you, how things going with you, how's your department and everything. And it's just the power of human connection is just amazing.
It is.
It is. And it's often missed, especially with technology today.
Yeah.
But you can utilize it in the same way.
I was going to say it could be beneficial as well because it's allowing us to connect with people. I mean, when Eric died, I will never, ever get off of Facebook. Facebook, honestly, probably contributed a very large percentage to my well-being because there were people that I wouldn't have never been able to have contact with that supported me. We weren't next to each other, but they reached out to me via Facebook, made sure that I was okay, did buddy checks on me. And it was possible through technology. So if utilized in the right way.
Yeah, that's the powerful
key. Yeah.
It's got to be utilized the right way.
Yeah.
And it's weird. I know we were talking just a minute ago about the upper echelon, the older guys, and then the younger guys. And that's one thing that's always baffled me with the younger generation. And I don't mean to bad talk them. I try, as being an officer and a leader within the fire service, I do a lot of studying about the younger generation. Mm-hmm. And I like to call them, it's bad. I don't like to call them this, but I do call them the me generation.
Yeah, it's true.
And I'm sure I don't want to speak for you and for Eric, but being older firefighters and everything like that, you can ask the older firefighters if, I'm sure right now, some of his older friends and stuff like that, if you had an issue at your house or needed a roof put on or your car broke down, you'd have about 5 or 6 firefighters.
Oh yeah,
up over
it's
there.
already happened. Yes.
Yeah, and probably none of those were the me generation.
Yeah, no.
A lot of those guys come in now. They just want to put that Maltese cross on their chest and wear a T-shirt to a bar and everything. Yeah. When they clock in at 0700, they can't wait to clock out at 0700 the next day.
Yeah,
they don't think twice about the brothers and sisters that are still in the firehouse.
Yeah,
or that have left.
Well, and I don't know if you have the problem out in Virginia, but out here, I'm in California, in Northern California, and the Bay Area is such an expensive place to live that what's happening is the new guys and gals coming in, they can't afford to live here yet on the salary that they have. So they're moving on the outskirts, and some of them in other states, where when they leave the station, they're 100 miles away. So they can't come and do the volunteer activities with the community. They can't come and help me, paint my house because they have to be home taking care of their family. They don't live around the corner. So that's part of kind of a problem too. Back in the day, I know for firefighters where I grew up in Vallejo, they used to have to live in the community. It was a rule, and it isn't that way anymore.
Yeah. A lot of communities and departments are doing away with the residency law. We've never had it, but localities around have done that, and they've just done away with it because it's like pulling teeth now to get police officers and firefighters as well So they're doing anything they can to do that.
I just read that Chicago PD removed the requirements of having a degree. Wow. And I don't know if it's the 4-year degree or any degree. So that, because those struggles are so real right now.
Wow.
So you mean to tell me that cops have to have a degree?
Yeah, that's actually what I'm saying. Wow about.
Yeah. Oh,
but they weren't smart enough. But they weren't smart enough to be firefighters.
Yeah. What about the ones that are? What about the ones that volunteer as firefighters and police? Do they get a little?
They're just trying to fulfill a fantasy on their days off and be a firefighter.
But as a cop, you don't get a lot of days off. You don't get to have weeks off in the middle of working 1 day a week.
Right.
No, don't be jealous. Don't be a hater. Like I said, if they would have scored a little bit higher on the test, they could have done it too. But all seriousness, we're all on the same team. We're all on the same game and everything like that, and have each other's back. And that's one thing that you and I saw in Chicago. It wasn't just firefighters. It was the Illinois Firefighter Peer Support Symposium, but it wasn't just firefighters. There was police officers there, EMTs there. It was just the whole gamut of first responders. And like I said, we all joke with each other, but at the end of the day, we know we have each other's back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And your families do too. And I know that you realize that, Chris, but a lot still are struggling to believe that. That's that one little knot of a rope they can't let go of. And they need to know that we will pick up that slack with you and be there for you.
Yeah.
So with that being said, it's time for us to conclude, but we definitely have to have you on again. Because we have so much to talk about. Definitely. And yeah, absolutely. But as we discussed, if you can reintroduce yourself to us and then let us know something that you do each week at the beginning of the week to be better by Friday.
So, reintroduce myself. Let me pull up my theme music and everything. I'm Chris Moore. I'm a captain, Chesapeake, Virginia Fire Department. Been in the fire service for 29 years. One of the things that I do to help myself is I do a lot of journaling, do a lot of writing. Actually had, through my journaling, I wrote an article that was published in Fire Engineering Magazine. And I'm working now on trying to put together some more articles and maybe eventually a book. I have so much journaling and stuff done. I don't call it typing on my computer because that's actually what I do. I'm not physically handwriting. I'm doing it all on my computer. And I can't call it typing because it's more like hunting and pecking, just my little 2 fingers like that. So it takes me a while to get that, but it is therapeutic when I put down my thoughts and everything. And usually one of the things I do, that's throughout the week, but usually by the end of the week, I sit down and I read what I wrote. And the good thing about it, if you don't like it, you can hit delete, or if it's great, you can edit it and see where it goes. But every week I usually put together something different.
Thank you very much. And tell Lewis we said bye.
Yeah.
Lou, come here. Lou, come. He doesn't want to come now. He's eating his
Of course
bunny.
Not. That's okay. We'll forgive him.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. Thank you, ladies. I appreciate it.
Hi, welcome to Beyond the First Response, where the thin lines don't stop, even when the calls do. I'm Christy Lister with Blue Help.
And I'm Robin Michael with Red Help. We are first responder family members that talk openly about the effects the job has on our lives and the mental health of our loved ones.